Inampae tua palino umparapa umpakatana pena angku samarie supuangku. Inampae tua palino umparapa umpakatana pena angku samarie supuangku. Nama malito ngana lan sitamu puangku lan kamalabirana macana tongan tu penangku sitirolindo puangku. Inantae tua palino umparapa umpakatana pena angku sitirolindo puangku.
Tu vu ça? T'as le bateau en bas?
Oui. Je vais prendre le petit déjeuner sur au-dessus de la mer.
C'est très spécial ici. C'est une mosquée, ça. Le fort Rotterdam.
Any Catholics in Makassar?
Me Catholic.
Ah, you're Catholic, okay.
Yeah.
Oui, non, ça va, ça j'ai pas trop marqué encore. La forêt est bien verte sur le karst.
Pero kasih bacaan nanya.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Oh là, les Dracaena là-haut, c'est... On ne connaît pas du tout ce Dracaena, hein, c'est...
Ah non, non, ça...
Très très
Et
particulier.
d'une élégance.
Ouais. Il ne met pas l'étuvier, bébé. On a des gros scolopendres, tu sais, regarde, on est partout là. C'est une patte. Tu sais pas les scolopendres, quoi, des yules.
Ah bon? Ah là là, ils vont partout.
Regarde, partout. On va être plus près de notre planète, là. So we are in the karst area of Rammang. We are not far at all from Makassar, so in the southern part of Sulawesi. And we have seen so beautiful Dracaena. The Dracaena more or less similar to the multiflora, for instance, in Palawan, or to Cochinchina in the peninsula, Vietnam on the Cochinchina. And so this Dracaena, many trees growing, and in this very humid, shaded part, we see a begonia. And this begonia is really growing without any soil, directly on the karst, and it is flowering. It could be an annual species, but not at all, because when we look closely, we see that there are tubers at the base ready anchored to the cast. We see it flowering. It seems the sexes are separate. It seems to be dioecious because this plant, for instance, has only male flowers with 2 petals. And for other plants, I see the fruit, female fruit. So I don't know, of course, which species it is. It is probably very well known because it's so close to Makassar, but sometimes we know that even close to big cities we can find species not yet described. But so this one is very interesting in its growth habit on the dry limestone. So small Argostema with single fruit at the apex of a very long stem, flower peduncle, very long flower peduncle. It's, I think it's the smallest Argostema I've ever seen. Les élatostémas qui ont des nervations comme ça.
Élatostéma ou Sonerilla?
Il y a une stipule, c'est un élatostéma.
Ah, d'accord.
Here we see A species of Araceae, rheophytic species on the karst just above the river. We see it's strongly fixed to the rock by the root. It has a thick rhizome, so it's a very, very old, as we can see, because we see the old rhizome here. It has many leaves. I don't see inflorescence. Probably it's of course it's a group of Homalomena, Schismatoglottis, Piptospata, but to know exactly which one it is among this group is not so easy. So we see this pandanus. There's only one stem, quite usual in pandanus, but we see all along the stem small plants, and it's a kind of vegetative propagation from kind of bulbils all along the trunk, and these after are falling, they have already some roots falling. It's a vegetative propagation way.
Ça rejette du tronc.
Oui, c'est tu vois, comme des espèces de bulbilles qui apparaissent sur le tronc. Ça tombe et ça te redonne des bébés. Okay, I take one of these fruits. So is there milk? Oh, there are 5 sepals at the base. So I try to cut. Not at all a fig, not at all a ficus. It has just one big seed in the middle. We see 3-parted, maybe violacea or euphorbiaceae, but I think maybe violacea, this. There is a Sundapsus pictus, a common species in Southeast Asia, but this is incredibly big-leaved. We see the size of the leaves, very unusual for this species, which is common in Malaysia, in Borneo, and the spots are also very beautiful.
incroyable, c'est quoi? La vie lacustre, voilà,
Alors c'est quoi les poissons?
ils sont beaux.
Danau Tempe, and in the middle of the south branch of Sulawesi. And we have to know that in Sulawesi no place is more than 100 kilometers from the sea, of course. Here we are very close because this southern part is quite narrow. And in this lake also we see, of course, the boracus palms. We see the sticks which are installed by the fishermen in order to keep all the floating plants. So it's, all the Eschornia, the Polygonum, the Echinomenae with the yellow flowers, the very beautiful Echinomenae. So all these plants are contained all along this curved design. And when the water is very high, fish are moving everywhere. But when the water is lower, the fish or remain inside this kind of circle, and the fishermen can catch many of them because they have no chance to swim away. And I see also these trees close to the boracus, to the palm to the boracus. And these trees, as you see, the leaves are opposite with the stipules, so it's obviously a member of the Rubiaceae. Of course, the climbing plant on all the sticks is probably Hypomea rubens. We see this Hypomea rubens with very beautiful pink flowers. But it's quite high diversity, I think. And Echinomenae, I don't know which species it is.
And we are on a floating house.
We are on a floating house. It's a lacustrine village. So it's a quiet life, I think so. I'm not living here. And of course I have also Hypomea aquatica. I see it here growing everywhere. Wow, this plant is it's incredible. It looks like a Gunera, it looks maybe like a Begonia, but actually when I look a little bit more, it's obviously a Tacca. It's a Tacca, but growing on a vertical slope. Oh yes, inflorescence, so no problem. It's a Tacca, and yes, it has not a long bracteal filament, so it's maybe close to Tacca palmata, which is so common, but this is totally different on the fruit. So if we have both leaves, fruits and inflorescence, it means that it has no period of resting. Here on this vertical earth slope we see a dense population of, I did not know if it was Gesneriaceae or Acanthaceae, but now I see the spiral shape of the fruit, which really looks like fruits of Streptocarpus. So maybe it's a genus Streptocarpus or another closely related genus. I'm under the huge leaves of an Alocasia. I think it's Alocasia balgooyi, which is endemic of the Celebes of Sulawesi. It has very, very thick leaves, and it's beautiful because the nerves are very clear, and in the young specimen they are totally silver. So we are at the entrance of the Lemo village in the Toraja country, in the center of Sulawesi, at the northern part of southern Sulawesi. And we see these Toraja houses, and the old ones, these ones are about 60 years old, and we see the roof, which becomes a vertical garden because actually the structure is made of bamboos, and these bamboos, after a few years, are covered by different plant species. We see, for instance, the hanging long leaves of the Vitaria. There are, for instance, here just above some Dracaena quercifolia. There are also many, I think it's the Balbesia with the long erect fronds, and also there are different orchid species, especially some dendrobium. We see at the top of this roof dendrobium. Some ficus also are growing, but usually they remove the trees. They never remove all the other plants, orchids, ferns. Also I see a Dischidia hanging here. But of course they remove the trees germinating because they can destroy the roof. Otherwise, all the ferns and mosses are a protection of the roof because this part of the roof is never changed. Only the top of the roof is regularly every few years changed. We see it's only along 1 meter and no ferns, no plants are growing there. Here I see, for instance, very beautiful Davalia denticulata with its long rhizome hanging down. We see, of course, the beautiful design, the carving of the walls, the old stairs. It seems it's work by people, but no, the plants are only worked by nature, so it's really natural vertical gardens on this structure. Here I'm just under the bamboo structure of the roof. We can clearly see all the successive layers of bamboos, all the mosses covering the roof very densely. Another fern, this is a Vitaria, hanging Vitaria. At the top we can see some orchids, dendrobium, covering the roof. Some ficus also are germinating. Some other ferns like Belvisia here, hanging. But what is really interesting is to see really that all this structure made of the rhizome of the fern, of the dense mosses, are really a protection of the roof because it's very densely fixed. We see the rhizome totally mixed with the mosses and with the bamboos, creating really insulation in case of very strong rain. All these roofs with mosses absorb part of the rain, and also for temperature it's a good insulation. So nothing to do, just to leave all these plants growing by themselves, and it's a big success year after year because these houses are about 60 years old and still well preserved. So vertical gardens can be a very good way to preserve the structure of houses. In the northern countries of Europe also, many houses are covered like this by natural mosses and also some other plants. So it's interesting to see that in very different parts of the world we can see quite similar ways of nature covering our man-made houses. In this abandoned rice field, this Otelia alismoides, it's a very common species. It's a family Hydrocaritaceae, which is a characteristic three-petaled white flower and a beautiful snail-shaped leaves, pinkish, because here they receive full light. Among the aquatic plant species, we see the Otelia alismoides, we see the Limnocaris flava, and also a kind of a water hyacinth, a Pontederiaceae, but this one is native. It's a monocoria, it's not the invasive Eschornia crassipes. This one is never invasive, it's fixed in the soil, it's not floating in the same way as the water hyacinth. We clearly see the shape of the two kinds of fronds of the Drenaria, probably Drenaria quercifolia. And so we see from the rhizome, which has bright brown hairs, it's very thick, about 2 centimeters thick, and the rhizome has some ramification. It's always producing regularly the brown scale fronds, which retain humus. Also from the ramification, each rainy season are produced the green, fertile, photosynthetic and fertile fronds, which last only for some months, and they will be decaying, drying and falling during the dry season. They will disappear, leaving only the rhizome and the brown scale fronds. It's funny because the rhizome is usually growing downwards. Usually the stems are growing in direction of the light, but in these Drenarias are growing either horizontally or downwards along the rock here. When growing on the trees, usually they are growing horizontally, creating this real basket around the trunks. it's really like a white dove, flying white dove. If I remember, it's an Habenaria. It's very, very beautiful. Elle est commune, cette orchidée. On la voit souvent.
Ah non.
Elle est très belle.
Ouais.
C'est une orchidée terrestre qui pousse dans le sol.
Oui, parce que les orchidées, c'est souvent sur les troncs des arbres.
Ouais.
C'est Platypetala, c'est non?
Oui, ça doit être ça.
Une autre impatience.
I'm finally so close to the Toraja tombs. I see the flowers of this Gesneriaceae we had seen before in Enrekang, but now there are the flowers. Probably it belongs to the genus Boea. Je sais pas, ils sont très mignons ces fruits. Ah, mais c'est une fleur. I think it's a member of the Gentianaceae. Actually, when I look more closely to the fruits, and when I see the sepals in a middle line like this, so it means that the ovary and receptacle are growing together with sepals here, and so it's a member of the Campanulaceae. It's close to genus Codonopsis, which I know for instance in Japan. Here we see clearly the sepals here in the middle line. Il est là? Ah, c'est pas vrai, attends, j'arrive. Ah oui, oui, oui. Ah, puis là, super. C'est bon, on voit la Begonia? I'm very surprised by this small erect begonia, totally covered by flowers. It's strange because it's growing directly on the limestone rock, totally exposed. We are just close to the famous Jesus of Tana Toraja. And I did not know that there were begonias like this in South Sulawesi. So it's interesting. I shall send the photo to my friend Mark Hughes because maybe we'll have immediately an idea about the identity of this creature. I'm looking at this plant growing gregariously on a sipping rock. I was almost sure it was an elatostema, but when looking more closely, I'm not so sure. So maybe it could be a begonia. It has peltate leaves because I see no stipules at all. But the problem is that both begonia and elatostema are supposed to have stipules. I see an inflorescence. This is an elatostema. Not sure that this species is already known. Very special peltate leaves and very begonia-like. I'm much intrigued by this small shrubby or half shrubby plant. So there are so many stamens, superior ovary. Maybe it could be something like a Teaceae, member of the tea family, or Soroia. Yes, it's a member of Teaceae. I think there are many Soroia species in Sulawesi. Là, il y a une fleur tombée là qui est très étonnante.
Ça fait très TAC, effectivement. Hein.
Regarde.
Oui, c'est une vraie couronne. Drôle. Il y a un trou au milieu.
Ouais. Here, fallen flower. Yes, I think probably it's a Teaceae actinidiaceae, a Soroia. Here we see a begonia in the quite usual habitat of begonia, in very humid, shaded place, close to a waterfall. And here we see it has very beautiful leaf shapes. This individual has green leaves, some other have brown leaves or some design. This is usual in begonia. Here we see the male flowers, and the male flowers have only 2 tepals. Under the male flowers, I see the 2 ovaries of 2 female flowers. So this is very characteristic of the section Petermania in the genus Begonia. The Petermania, male flowers have 2 tepals, female flowers are usually by 2, and we don't see the petals, but they have 5 petals. So the female flowers are doubled like this, not single, and have 5 tepals. The Petermania is really the section which is the most abundant in species in Sulawesi. In Sulawesi there are probably more than 50 or 60 species of begonia, but still some to discover, such as the one we could see close to the Christus statue, and which is a new species already collected 33 years ago, but it has still to be named. This one is probably known, but I cannot be sure because there are so many begonia. So we'll see, but it's a very beautiful one. We see side by side these 2 peltate species, which are very similar because the leaves are dentate on both plants. They're peltate with the petiole arriving just here at the base of the limb. The leaf is asymmetric with one big part on the top area and the lower, narrower part in the other side. So They are very, very similar, but they belong to two totally different families. This is a Begonia, and this is a member of Urticaceae. It's an Elatostema. Very, very often, Elatostema and Begonia are confusing because very, very similar. A very beautiful Elatostema species with a very long acumen, so it's a very elegantly display of the leaves.
So I'm now at the base of this beautiful waterfall, Parambousticore. We are just about 10 kilometers southwest of Rantepao in the Tana Toraja. And we have seen around the waterfall many interesting plants, a very beautiful begonia of the Peteramania, the genus, and many Elatostema climbing on the rocks, other erect Elatostema, but what is very interesting is this huge Monophyllaea, because here I think I've never seen a so big Monophyllaea, even in for instance in Gunung Mulu National Park in Sarawak in Borneo there are many species, but this one is incredibly huge, and it's quite funny because when we were close to Makassar in the Bantimurung waterfall, we did see Monophyllaea chinii, which is the smallest species of Monophyllaea. So probably in Sulawesi we can find in South Sulawesi the smallest species of Monophyllaea and the biggest species of Monophyllaea.
So on this inflorescence, first we see the scars of the old flowers and fruits, and what's interesting, the youngest part is here, and we see all the small maturing fruits which are oval shaped and totally closed, and when they are maturing, suddenly they are turning upward and they are opening, and we see the 5 elements of the fruit opening, and the black thing in the middle actually is the accumulation of all the tiny seeds. When the raindrops are falling here, all the tiny seeds are dispersed around the parent plant. It's why we see that there are hundreds of Monophyllaea growing closely side by side because the seeds are not dispersed very far. And here, so these fruits will be broken once they lose all the seeds. We see like this, and after we have just the scar of the tiny fruit. Ces maisons sont anciennes, et après ils ont refait le toit en tôle ondulée.
Ada satu negeri penuh terang yang ku tahu, bebas dari dosa dunia dari susah. Oh, indah negeri di mana kehidupan kekal, sana matahari kekal. Oh ya, terangnya selamanya, terang dalam glori, selalu terang dalam glori. Mana air kehidupan mengalir, di mana malaikat menyanyi lonceng glori berbunyi, sana kekal sungguh terangnya terang selamanya.
So here we are in the eastern part of the Gunung Kungkan, so very close to Rantepao, and it is the eastern side, and I see a beautiful specimen of this begonia. But it's interesting because the leaf shape is not exactly the same as the one we have seen in Makale, just close to the new Christ statue, which was growing in a much more dry habitat, and also the shape of the leaves was not exactly the same. Obviously, it is a new species which has yet to be described. We see the branching pattern, the different stems, and fixed totally directly to the limestone rock, to the karst. But we are not alone here. When we look around, we see very old graves, wooden graves, and we see that some people were living around here for many centuries, just as we can see when looking at these old skulls of these people. So it's a sacred place. So it's interesting because actually on these vertical cliffs there are maybe two species. The first one in totally exposed drying places, and this one is much more humid places. Here we see clearly the male flower, typical of the section Tutepal, typical of a Petermania section. The difference with the other species is that here the stem is covered by hairs, not only the stem but the leaves also. Leaves and stems are totally hairy, just as we can see. Female flowers are usually grouped by two, the two developing fruits.
Oh iya, mau tempat ya tuh?
Yo, selada.
In this cloud forest, at much more than 1,000 meters above sea level, we see a huge Alpinia species, and it has both fruits and flowers on the same spike, and it's a very tall species, somewhat recalling the ones I could see before in Fiji or in New Guinea. Finally, this cloud forest I see a natural population of this palm we did see so many times around the houses and villages in the Toraja area, and this is the Pigafetta elata. This palm is used by Toraja people as pillars for their houses and mostly for the rice barns because it's a very straight wood and it's easy to manage in agroforestry system because it's growing very fast. It's supposed to grow about 2 meters by year, so it's supposed to be the highest speed of growth for palms in the world. But actually, it's an incredibly beautiful species. Of course, we have to be careful because of the spines all along the branches of the leaves, but it's really the image of the mountains of South Sulawesi. Here we see a plant which is a typical member of the Pacific flora of it's a cordyline, so it's a really Sulawesi is the western limit of the genus cordyline because we can find them in New Guinea, in New Zealand, in Australia, but not at all in Borneo. So really the Wallace line is the limit between Flores, between Sulawesi and Borneo along the famous Wallace line, which is not only for animals but also for plants, a typical New Guinean element.
The longest stilt route of the pandanus I've ever seen in the world.
Ayun!